I'm a language coach, and one of the main ways that I educate you guys on learning a language online is about sharing a ton of content online. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, so many different places. Because I share a lot of my own personal opinions about how to learn a language, there are a few people who really like to tell me that my opinions are wrong. Which is fine, except some of the comments that are left from time to time aren't exactly the nicest. So in this video, I wanted to highlight some of these comments and share with you what we can learn from these statements and how we can use these statements to help our language learning. If you're new here, hi. My name is Jamie, I'm a language coach, and my job is to help online language learners understand how to stay consistent and motivated in their language learning long term. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every single Wednesday. Now before we jump into the first comment, one little piece of housekeeping. Nothing I'm going to say in this video is meant to be an attack or something personal about anybody who left any of these comments, which is why I've blurred out all the names and pictures and everything. The point of this video is to explain why some of these ideas are kind of problematic for language learners and how we can do better to make sure that everybody can learn a language. The first comments are going to be about our favorite language app, Duolingo. And if you haven't seen any of my content where I talk about Duolingo, basically my opinion about Duolingo is that it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, except some people get sucked into it and end up feeling really bad about their language learning, and I help them to see these things and shift what they're doing. These comments don't agree with that though. The first comment, we're going to focus on the bottom half of it, which says, stop telling people to stop using Duolingo. When you lose a Duolingo streak, it wants you to do it again to ensure fluency. Change your censored title, please. And also, how many languages do you speak to criticize Duolingo and call yourself a language coach? If I were less confident, I might be a little upset by that comment. I'm going to use this as a lesson. Sure, the thumbnail title, whatever, of that video said stop using Duolingo, and then I said in the video, ... if you are addicted to it and using it just to use it and aren't actually learning anything. Tons of language learners get stuck in this situation where they are addicted to Duolingo and they can't unhook that addiction. And so I was just basically verbalizing, explaining what's happening and some options for people to do instead. Then this commenter goes into, when you lose a Duolingo streak, it wants you to do it again to ensure fluency. That's fair, but a lot of people put a lot of stock into their daily streaks. I've totally been there. So the point of it is to not obsess over your streak and think that maybe it might mean something about your language learning. It doesn't matter if you have a 0-day streak or a 1,000-day streak. That has something to do with your actual ability to use the language. And so if all you're doing is focusing on that streak, maybe don't do that. How many languages do you speak to criticize Duolingo and call yourself a language coach? Ooh, burn. There was a lot to unpack there, but I'm just gonna keep it simple and say that I critique all apps equally. I don't favor one app over another. I'm pretty unique in that actually, because most other people, they love certain apps and that's the ones they'll talk about, and if they don't really particularly like another app, they won't talk about that one. I critique and praise all apps equally. It just so happens that people love to get mad at me when I say anything negative about Duolingo. It's weird. People are obsessed with it. I don't get it. This next comment is, again, about Duolingo. Duolingo is a perfect app for learning languages, and I can confirm it since a teacher teaches me the same things as Duolingo. This video is a trap for people to believe that Duolingo isn't valid because it is. So I've had this experience with learning languages in school that I know you guys can relate to. Just because you learn something in school doesn't mean you have active ability to use it and have conversations and all that kind of stuff. Studied Spanish in school for 4 years, and when I got to Spain, I knew diddly squat. And then that last sentence. This video is a trap for people to believe that Duolingo isn't valid because it is. Duolingo is valid. I agree with that statement. Duolingo is perfectly valid as long as you are intentional about what you're using it for. And if you are using it for 100% of your language study, don't do that. That's not helpful. Seriously, these comments are acting like I am taking the entire Duolingo app and saying it's terrible, it's horrible, don't ever use it, it's the worst. I would never say that, but people really like to look at things as black and white. Okay, we've got 2 more comments about Duolingo, and then the rest of them are not Duolingo, so we get a little interesting. You don't even know what you're saying. Duolingo helps you learn languages more fluently and more better, and it gives you some tips to becoming better. Sure, Duolingo helps you learn languages. I agree with that statement. That's accurate. Sure, Duolingo gives you tips to get better with your language learning. That's accurate. However, that doesn't really say anything. Literally every language app in the world does those things. Every language app, by definition, helps you learn languages better and gives you tips. And just like any other language app, Duolingo's not perfect. I may recommend Duolingo for specific intentions and to solve particular problems, just like I'll recommend other apps to solve particular problems. But no app is perfect. What's really funny is that when I say, hey, Duolingo's not perfect, and people just say, oh, I don't agree. And then this last one about Duolingo. Your language learning is certainly getting better if you use Duolingo, etc., etc., etc. You have to use multiple resources to acquire language, etc., etc., etc. I enjoy all three and I'm acquiring, not learning the language just fine. Okay, fine. But this is where it gets spicy. It's highly dishonest for you to review a website when you are partnered with a competing website, especially when you have videos of you using Duolingo on your channel and you damn well know it's not only multiple choice. I'm not really sure what this one is talking about being partnered with a competing website. I'm not. I might mention other websites and other apps. I might say, hey, Duolingo doesn't do this very well, but you know which app does do this well? This one. I may say that, but again, I'm not just like outright like shaming Duolingo. And then that last sentence, you have videos of you using Duolingo on your channel and you damn well know it's not only multiple choice. You're correct. It's not only multiple choice, but here's the thing. You have to put effort into making it not multiple choice, which isn't a huge deal, except it's not automatic unless you're on desktop, and then even so that it takes a little configuring, and a lot of people aren't going to put that effort in, especially when they don't realize how important it is. Somebody who knows nothing about language learning goes onto Duolingo, plays multiple choice stuff, and they feel really great about their language learning. And they get up that daily streak and they get all the awards and all that stuff, and they finish a tree, and then when they try and have a conversation, they can't. The point is, you have to be knowledgeable and intentional about making it not multiple choice. And a lot of people don't know to do that, or they don't know why that's important. And if they do, they might not care because they want it to be easy. They don't want to make it more difficult for themselves because why would they? It's easier to just do multiple choice, and so they're happy with that. Me pointing that out is meant only to help people who don't know any better and who are just gonna end up in a place where they have been tapping buttons the whole time and not actually using the language, and then when they try to use the language, they're disappointed. Do you agree with any of these comments that I've shared so far? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, now we're done with Duolingo, so let's finish out with the last batch of these comments, which are not Duolingo focused. Now, this first comment was talking about group lessons. I think it was on Babbel Live, where basically you can have an online class in a group of people all learning the same like grammatical concept or something like that. And this person says it's a waste of time, and they have 4 reasons why it's a waste of time, which is my first point. Nothing is a waste of time. Absolutely nothing. That kind of logic really prevents people from making real progress in their language learning, because every single little thing they do, they assume it's a waste of time because of comments like this, unfortunately. But literally anything that you do in your target language is valuable, is important, is not a waste of time. Talking live about grammar doesn't give you any advantage or learning effect. It's not rocket science, you can learn that from a book, but most polyglots never learn grammar. Oh boy. The first point in the first point. Talking live about grammar doesn't give you any advantage or learning effect. Says who? You can absolutely benefit from talking about grammatical points, practicing them verbally, understanding the concepts behind them. Just because it doesn't help this specific person doesn't mean it's not going to help anybody else. If it works for you, it works for you. The next point. It's not rocket science, you can learn that from a book. Sure, you can learn that from a book, but do you want to? I mean, I personally love books, but I'm not going to begrudge anybody who doesn't like textbooks. If you would rather be told face-to-face by somebody like a tutor or like a language exchange partner or something like that, if that is how it is that you pick up and learn things in a way that makes sense for you and is interesting to you, great. Just because there are books available doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. And that is the beauty of having all of these resources available. And lastly, most polyglots never learn grammar. So what? Who cares what polyglots do? Who cares what any other individual person does? If you don't want to learn grammar, that's fine. If you do, that's also fine. But that shouldn't be based on what some random stranger polyglot does. It should be based on what you want to do. Even if this was 100% speaking time, it's really not worth it. Again, maybe to this commenter, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it for anybody else. Live classes should be designated for speaking because that's the thing you can't do on your own. Sure you can. I have whole videos talking about how you can practice speaking on your own. You don't need to have a live conversation in order to practice speaking. There are other options. There's talking to yourself, there's chat bots, there's audio recordings, there are all sorts of options. And some people might prefer to use live classes to learn grammar by talking about it and listening to it, and they would rather practice their speaking in other ways. They're all perfectly fine. The worst thing that people do is they find an approach, a strategy that works for them, and then they go on the internet and like attack every other strategy and saying, no, that's a waste of time, that doesn't work, it's not valuable, etc., etc., etc. All approaches are valuable for somebody. Just because it's not effective for you doesn't mean it's not going to be effective for anybody. Whew, okay, I'm getting heated. This next one, we're going off of YouTube and onto Instagram, which, by the way, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. This person says some people just aren't good at it. You can see there was a little bit of a back and forth going on where they kept bringing up reasons why it's impossible for them to learn a language, and then I kept responding back with why that isn't actually logical, doesn't actually make sense. After a little bit of a back and forth, we got to the end where this person finally told me why they can't learn languages. And the actual reason is, nothing's impossible, obviously. Our point is, it's too hard to the point where it's not worth it. Well, there you go. It's not somebody literally not being able to learn languages because it's impossible. It's because it's not worth it for them, which is fine. But hiding behind things like neurodiversities and handicaps and all sorts of things, not helpful. And no disrespect to neurodiverse folks, I am also neurodivergent, so don't come for me. And last but not least, this is actually the comment that inspired this entire video. And this wasn't even the entire comment, this was just like the juicy parts of it. Language learning today has become this weird thing where people think they are still in high school learning stuff to pass some exam. Okay, kind of condescending, but whatever. Worse, we have those apps that gamify language learning, making us feel like we are doing something productive by tapping buttons. I don't disagree, but the condescending tone, none of these involve actual speaking/talking. I agree. Speaking is the holy grail of language learning, such that all the other skills, reading, listening, even writing, are all in the ultimate service of that one skill. Not necessarily accurate. As I said in many pieces of content before, not everybody wants to speak. That's not everybody's priority, and it doesn't matter what you want to achieve in your language learning, it's fine. Again, just because speaking is the holy grail for you does not mean speaking is the holy grail for everybody. And then they went into detail their approach. Number 1, coming out strong, travel and immersion. Wow, that's a leap. This is the gold standard. Not necessarily. Ultimately, if you call yourself a language learner and you don't have any part of your overall life plan that will involve traveling to and living in the countries of your target language, then what the heck are you doing with your life? Wow, the judgment. That's so judgmental. One of the reasons to learn a language is to open up your mind and be more accepting towards different kinds of people. And this is not having an open mind and being accepting to different types of people. Not everybody wants to travel abroad and immerse in a language. Not everybody can. It is totally valid to learn a language without ever planning to go to the country that speaks that language. What the heck are you doing with your life? You're learning a language, and that's awesome. You're opening yourself up to new cultures and new pieces of the world and new kinds of people and new perspectives. And that is 100% valid even if you never leave your home. So I would love it if we could just stop with the judgment and stop with the assumptions and stop with the, my way or no way at all, and just be accepting of how everybody learns languages and just be happy that they are learning languages. My heart's pounding. That was a lot of different pieces of advice. And that's the thing with the internet. There's so many different conflicting pieces of advice, and it can be really difficult to know which advice to take. Doesn't help when people are judgmental and assume that their approach is the only approach that is effective, valuable, etc. And that was one of the big reasons behind my language coaching program. There's a huge disconnect between people who really want to put in the work to learn a language and like an actual path for people to decide what works for them. Especially when all these people are saying, you must do this or else what are you doing with your life? Literally. If you want to learn more about how I can help you learn a language in a way that works for you without judgment, without criticism, without any of this stuff, click the link below in the description to join the method. If you like this video, check out these videos next. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Let me start this all over. Start it all over. Okay.